Okay, so today I'm going to listen to another snare drum piece by Christian Wolff. It's called Exercise 27, and this is called the second snare drum piece march. We looked at Exercise 26 a couple days ago. It also had this title, and it was also dedicated to Stuart Saunders Smith. I guess they're almost always performed together, so it's pretty much like two movements of the same piece, but technically they are different pieces. Um, Both of them written in 1988. And this one has a much vaguer performance note. The previous one gave all sorts of like instructions about how to go through the score. This one is more like consider various ways of playing the snare drum. So fingertips, nails, knuckles, one at a time, tapping, snapping, plucking the snares. Notes longer than a quarter note usually trill. It's kind of interesting indication, or you could like scrape the drum head or slide across it. F Try out some different tempi and pick one that works for you. It's kind of an interesting indication. Um, so overall, it's very loose, like what this one can sound like. Um, there are three voices at one point. It seems to be very brief. And there's lots of long held notes, so I think it's fairly easy to play this with two hands. Unlike the previous one, which had a more extended section with three voices, and the composer suggested whistling one of the voices or sort of instructed you to do that. This one has a greater variety of note values, and whereas the first one, the exercise 26, it was very like subtle in the differences of note value. It was mostly just like changing meters and eighth notes, straight eighth notes. This is a lot more interesting, and I think will be a bit more of a dynamic performance. I'm just gonna go to the same recording I was looking at last time. So yeah, I think the first one ended around 4 minutes. Um, yeah, I'll let you know my thoughts after this other viewing here. Okay, so again, I used the score. I listened along with the score, so there may be some visual things in the performance that I missed. Um, this interpretation was kind of interesting because he really went for using different implements and not actually using fingertips or like parts of his hand as the performance note suggests. Um, but interesting use of like rubber ball mallet and different implements in this interpretation. It provides a lot of contrast with his performance of the exercise 26, but I don't know if that's what Christian Wolff had in mind. Um, I find this thing with all the long held notes to be much more successful, and like the use of silence. It's a lot more successful than exercise 26, in my opinion. Um, and this performer used a whirly tube, which technically is not a snare drum, but it using it just to play rhythms, like long held notes like this, resulted in some interesting effects. And if I was to write for tube like that, I would probably just notate it very simply like this. Um, so that's kind of an interesting discovery, That's sort of what I think is the value in looking at these scores as a composer, is you might realize, oh, I don't need to notate so much to get some interesting sounds and things happening. Overall, my thoughts on the two exercises, I think like they're not particularly interesting. I'm not familiar with Christian Wolff's stuff, but I know he has a lot of text scores. But I think by the 80s, late 80s, like this is not particularly revolutionary, and it's actually kind of conservative in its notation. Like we've had the whole Fluxus movement happen at this point, and this just looks like something John Cage would have written in like the 1930s. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Exercise 27 by Christian Wolff. Let me pull up the next piece here. So I think we're going to look at this piece by Matthew Berntner called Squeak, which is for squeaky toys. And I will let you know in advance, even though this is a solo percussion series, I won't be able to find a solo performance. It's for any number of players, but the smallest I could find online was like duos. So, uh, but I do want to look at the piece just for the sake of it. So that'll be next.